Hello, everyone, and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Hammond, and we're live in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. Vice President J.D. Vance to accompany his wife Usha Vance on a visit to Greenland this week, following President Trump's calls to annex the island. Turkish police detained more than 1,500 demonstrators as thousands more continue to defy the crackdown and protest the arrest of President Erdogan's main political rival, Ekrem İmamoğlu. Hundreds of Palestinians take to the streets in northern Gaza to voice their anger against Hamas and demand an end to the ongoing war with Israel. Moscow declares Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant as Russian territory, rejecting any transfer of the facility to Ukraine or other nations. And First Lady Melania Trump's iconic Dior wedding dress, originally priced at $100,000, reportedly hits eBay auction for less than half of its price. We began here in Washington as U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz says he takes full responsibility for accidentally including a journalist in a top-secret group chat. Speaking to Fox News, Waltz confirmed he created the group chat on the messenger app Signal, where highly sensitive details about imminent U.S. strikes on Yemen were in fact posted. However, before owning his embarrassing gaffe, Waltz trashed the Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg as the journalist with a horrible reputation and the one who hates President Donald Trump.
It's embarrassing, right. Yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone. Look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump not only stood by his national security advisor, he invited Waltz to the cabinet room in a show of support.
The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information. So this was not classified. Now, if it's classified information, it's probably a little bit different. But I always say you have to learn from every experience. I think it was very unfair the way they attacked Michael. He's a good person. The person that was on just happens to be a sleazebag. So maybe that's just coincidence. I don't know.
Now, as the Trump administration sought to contain the fallout, Democrats called on top officials to resign over the stunning security breach. On Tuesday, Democratic senators grilled Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Chief John Ratcliffe. Both Gabbard and Ratcliffe testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee that no classified documents were in fact shared in the group chat on Signal.
I also know Jeff Goldberg. I don't use it to communicate with him. But you thought it was appropriate. By the way, I think he's one of the more outstanding journalists in America. But I'm shocked to find him on a thread that he's reading in the parking lot of a grocery store in Washington, D.C.
And that wasn't a huge mistake. That wasn't a huge mistake.
Well, I think they characterize
this
it as
an embarrassment. This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error. And by the way, we will get the full transcript of this chain, and your testimony will be measured carefully against its content. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton also weighed in on the latest leak, saying, quote, "You've got to be kidding me," end quote. Now, Goldberg's story suggested that Waltz's coordination of the sensitive war plans on Signal may have violated several provisions of the Espionage Act. However, President Trump's team knows how to downplay the seriousness of a situation quite well, leaving very little room for such action. And staying in the United States, President Donald Trump has signed a sweeping executive order aimed at tightening election security and ensuring what he calls, quote, free, fair, and honest elections, end quote. The order introduces major changes, including requiring proof of U.S. citizenship for voter registration, banning foreign donations, and making Election Day the strict deadline for receiving mail-in ballots.
There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Now, President Trump has long been vocal about what he sees as flaws in the U.S. election system. Citing India and other countries as examples, he argued that the United States lags in enforcing basic voter protections.
This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we're going to straighten it out one way or the other. And it's an honor to sign this one. To sign all of them, but to sign this one is a great honor.
The order calls on states to submit their voter rolls for review by the Department of Homeland Security and the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency. Federal agencies will also be required to share data with states who help identify any non-citizens who may have registered to vote.
There are other steps that we will be taking in the coming weeks, and we think we'll be able to end up getting fair elections. Perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we got to straighten out our election.
In fact, in another security-related measure, President Trump has also instructed the Election Assistance Commission to update its guidelines for voting systems. The order specifically bans the use of barcodes or QR codes in the vote counting process, arguing that these features could create vulnerabilities. The commission has also been given 6 months to review and, if necessary, recertify all voting systems under these new standards.
I would love to do that. I think it's very unfair. It's been very biased. And frankly, there's plenty look at all the media you have right now. There's plenty of coverage. So the kind of money that's being wasted, and it's a very biased view, you know that better than anybody. And I'd be honored to see it end.
With the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential election on the horizon, the impact of President Trump's order could be huge. But with legal battles almost certain and pushback from states that see this as federal overreach, the big question is, will the Trump administration go ahead with these changes before America votes again? A-list actor George Clooney took center stage on 60 Minutes, but it wasn't just his Broadway debut making headlines. The Hollywood star turned political activist didn't hold back, slamming political cowardice and warning about the growing threats to press freedom. But before the credits even rolled, Donald Trump was already firing back. The commander-in-chief took to Truth Social, mocking Clooney as a second-rate movie star and a failed political pundit. He accused the Hollywood star of abandoning former President Joe Biden like a dog and dismissed the interview as total puff piece. Our next report has all the details.
Donald Trump and George Clooney are at it again. This time the battlefield is 60 Minutes, where Clooney wasn't just there to promote his Broadway debut in Good Night and Good Luck.
Hey guys, hello, hi everybody.
The conversation quickly turned towards political cowardice and the fight for press freedom. Now, press freedom wasn't the only topic that the 63-year-old actor touched upon. In a headline-making moment, Clooney even defended his decision to write a New York Times op-ed calling for former President Joe Biden to step aside. "I was raised to tell the truth," he said, recalling how a close encounter with Biden at a fundraiser left him shaken. He then accused his fellow Democrats of showing profiles in cowardice by refusing to acknowledge the former president's struggles.
What should be remembered is the selfless act of someone who, you know, it's very hard to let go of power. You know, we know that. We've seen it, you know, all around the world. And for someone to say, I think there's a better way forward, that's all the credit goes to him.
Donald Trump let him complete, but then came the time when he fired back. Mocking Clooney's acting career, Trump called the interview a total puff piece. In the furious post, he even trashed Clooney as a second-rate movie star and failed political pundit. Trump's rant went on and on. Fuming, he wrote, he fought hard for Sleepy Joe's election, and then, right after the debate, dumped him like a dog. Clearly, Trump didn't stop there. He revived his claim that 60 Minutes had deceptively edited Kamala Harris's October interview, calling it one of the most embarrassing and dishonest events in broadcast history. Then, going back to Clooney, the American leader accused the actor of switching allegiances under orders from the Obama camp and mocked his career, claiming movies never really worked for him. Trump and Clooney have been at odds for years. After Clooney's op-ed last summer, Trump called him a fake movie actor who should go back to television. Clooney later shot back on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, sarcastically responding to Harris's election loss by quipping, "What am I supposed to do? Storm the effing Capitol?" The clash is not the first, and it certainly won't be the last, because the Trump-Clooney showdown is only getting started. Clooney says he will keep speaking the truth, and Trump says he will keep calling him out. The question is, who wins this war of words?
And now moving to South America, hundreds of fishermen gathered outside the National Congress in Chile's Valparaiso on Tuesday. They protested against the Senate Commission delaying a vote on a new fishing bill which has sparked controversy in recent days. The agitation soon turned violent after some protesters tried to enter the Congress and knock down a gate surrounding the building. They also clashed with the riot police, who repelled them with water cannons, tear gas, and batons. At least one police officer was in fact injured during the demonstration, while several protesters were detained to prevent further escalation. Meanwhile, thousands of fishermen also gathered at docks in Valparaiso carrying banners that said the sea is not for sale.
Our country is surrounded by sea. We're mere sea, but people barely eat fish. Why? Because the fishing industry uses it to produce fish meal to feed salmon farms, which pollute our sea.
The controversial bill seeks to redistribute quotas between industrial and artisanal fishermen and has already been passed in the lower house. Local fishers say the original bill passed in the lower house benefited artisanal fishermen in terms of sales of hockey and cutler fish species. However, these benefits were reduced as the bill made its way through the Senate. Protesting fishermen and their unions now claim the revised bill favors industrial fishing companies.
Quotas have been set at 70% for artisan fishermen and 30% for industrial ones. However, they were changed by the Senate Fishing Commission. This is what angered us because they didn't respect the discussion that lasted for over a year in the commission of the Chamber of Deputies. Then 5 senators said no, and they cut our quotas in a totally anti-democratic and dictatorial way. In the end, 5 people can't decide the future of artisan fishing. This new law will remain for 30 years. This is what brought different groups and fishermen from the Chilean coast here.
Now, artisanal fishermen say they will continue to fight for equitable fishing rights amid threats to their livelihood. Meanwhile, debate on the controversial bill continues Wednesday with further delays and legal hurdles expected in the Senate. And today we end with Snow White's magic in red states. Disney's live-action Snow White, despite criticism over its casting and so-called woke elements, performed better in Republican-leaning states than in traditionally Democratic ones. Box office analysts reveal that ticket sales in red states surpassed expectations. Its unexpected success in conservative regions adds a new twist to the ongoing debate over Hollywood and audience preferences. Here's our report with more.
Once upon a time, in a land divided by political opinions, Disney released a live-action remake of Snow White. Critics scoffed, controversy brewed, and the internet dubbed the film a snow woke. But, plot twist.
This was my father's kingdom, a place of fairness, but the Queen changed everything. Take him away!
While the film floundered at the box office, it actually performed better in Republican-leaning states or the red states than in its assumed liberal strongholds. Now who knew Prince Charming was red? Starring Rachel Zegler as the titular princess, Snow White had a fairy tale budget of $270 million. But the film barely conjured up $43 million in its opening weekend, and yet, despite the online backlash over its diverse casting and woke undertone, ticket sales revealed an interesting twist. Conservative-leaning audiences turned out at a higher-than-expected rate.
Hello? Is there anybody here?
According to a box office analytics company, family films typically pull in 63% of their revenue from Democrat-supporting areas and 37% from Republican ones. But Snow White raked in 40% from red states and got 43.5% admission from red county-based cinemas, overperforming in regions where you'd expect a boycott rather than a box office boost.
The Queen stole everything from all of us. I'm gonna need your help. It's time to restore our kingdom.
Florida's Lake Buena Vista became the highest-grossing theater for the film. Even more surprising, Snow White overperformed in Latino and Hispanic-heavy cities like Dallas, San Antonio, and Phoenix, proving that audiences don't always vote with their wallets the way social media suggests. The film's road to the silver screen was anything but smooth. When Zegler, who's Latina, was cast as Snow White, right-wing critics lost their glass slippers over the idea that a character described as having skin as white as snow could be played by an actor of color.
The most emotional experience that a person can go through to know that what they're working on is something that has reached a generation of people. You know, this is a classic film that established the Disney name, and now I'm a part of that legacy to some degree, and it's not something I take lightly, and it's just the most emotional experience to see little girls dress up as Snow White, and I hope that they will for years to come.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
Famed is thy beauty, majesty.
Now let's be real. No magic mirror is going to declare Snow White the fairest at the box office. With a sluggish start and a divisive reputation, the film seems more destined for a fate more akin to Maleficent than Cinderella. Whether this unexpected red state support signals a shift in Hollywood cultural battlegrounds or just proves that children don't care about politics is yet to be seen.
And now we're here to take it back.
Either way, it's safe to say that this isn't the fairy tale ending Disney was hoping for.
My dear, did I frighten you?
That's Firstpost America for this Wednesday, March 26. I'm Eric Ham, signing off from our studios here in Washington, D.C. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Greeting you with a